thank you for choosing to be part of the program. We have another interesting topic of discussion on the verdict, transport sector issues and elections amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. My guest on the program is coming from the Commuter magazine. He is the team leader as well as a commuter rights advocate, Liswaniso Mwanalushi. Your host on the program, I'm Patrick Soko. Welcome to the program, Mr. Liswaniso.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure always interacting with you, Mr. Soko. It's not the first time we're interacting. Thank you.
We are glad, our dear viewers, that you have chosen to be part of the program, but you can also participate on the same program on the number that is scrolling on your screens. You will be able to give us what are your thoughts regarding our topic of discussion by contributing. Remember, The Verdict is a program that has been designed by Camry TV to grant our viewers an opportunity to understand various issues as the country goes to the polls on August 12. Remember, if you are aspiring to be a leader, as a councillor, or as a council chairperson or member of parliament, this platform is dedicated to you so that you can be able to interact with your directorates on various issues that you intend to do when given a mandate to represent them. And on the same program, we host governance activists on various sectors of the economy so that they can discuss issues that may be deemed pertinent as we talk about elections, so that as you go to cast your vote, you are informed and understand various issues. And today we have zeroed on the transport sector, and Mr. Mwanalushi is going to help me discuss various issues on the program. But Mr. Mwanalushi, before we get deep into the program, I want to get your aspect regarding when you started your advocacy and just a bit of your professional background.
Thank you. As shared by the presenter, my name is Liswaniso Mwanalushi. I'm the team leader and editor of the Commuter magazine. The Commuter magazine started its operations way back in the year 2012, 2013 there. We are a community, multi-purpose media publication. We produce our own stories. Basically, in Zambia they say there's no picture without a story. Basically, what we are is a publication. Now, because of the changing times, I'm sure many of us can agree that the newspaper industry is not doing well in terms of circulation. The reading culture in Zambia has changed, but and it's of concern, and we appeal to stakeholders to see how they can assist the stakeholders in the reading sector so that we can redeem the newspaper industry, for example. Otherwise, that's what we are. My professional background, well, I'm from the media background. I've done public relations, I've done advertising, marketing at Evelyn Horn. I've done video shooting at the under Teveta at the audio unit. I've gone further to, like everyone else is trying to improve on their education background. I was doing a development studies program under the Zambia Open University. I'm yet to finish because of challenges in raising the tuition fees. You know, times are challenging. These days we live on, some of us we live on hand to mouth. So for now, we have suspended our education program, the personal improvement program, but that's my professional background.
Thank you very much for that, for sharing with us on that aspect. But we want to get into our topic of discussion. We understand you have a rich background in terms of the advocacy in the transport sector. As a commuter rights advocate, what motivated you to get to start speaking about issues that have to do with the commuters?
Growing up was very interesting, you know. When you start school, you get getting educated, your mind being opened up to to understand other developmental activities going on in the world. Was a very good experience, and I would urge every parent to make sure that all their children, they go through the education process. It really opens up people. So as I was growing up, we are all wonderfully made and created in God's image. Right?
Exactly.
So growing up, I'm from onset, I was taller than the next guy, my sibling, or I don't know how. So, but I started noticing this as I grew up, like in grade 5, 6, 7, even in the school assembly. I'm a young boy, years-wise, but I stand at the end of the queue with the boys who are bigger than me age-wise. So certain things are initiated because you hang around those people. But as I went on, I could hear people commenting, I'm tired, you know, it starts affecting me. But there's no one to like give guidance, to sit me down to say, oh, these comments people are making are normal. So as I progress into secondary school, the voices become louder, you find your class teacher, your siblings, every day people are reminding you that too. Then now, this tolerance becomes a challenge as it manifests. I'm unable to find the right fitting clothes. Back then, it was your parents will buy you things. You find you don't fit, others are fitting. Now we start growing up with that. And then as I'm fitting school, it becomes a challenge to find the clothes which are fitting. Then I'm also a citizen of this country. Why am I not being catered for? So I started asking for my rights. I'm a citizen of the country. I'm supposed to be catered for service-wise, clothes-wise, and space-wise. So I started demanding, I need the proper clothes and whatnot. So where do I go to have my rights to have these things given? So I started making these noises. Eventually found myself at the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission.
The CCPC then?
Yes, that was to do with the things to do with my personal enjoyment of the products which are being offered. Then space-wise, the road transport and safety-wise, when I jump on a bus, the space is limiting. Other agencies, when Zambia Bureau of Standards, there are certain places you find the elevator, you can't stand properly. There's these mobile toilets which are placed at rallies. For instance, this time when we are having political campaigns, you find there's a rally, but there's somewhere they have put my mobile toilets. You go there, you can't stand straight. Now to pee, it becomes a challenge if you're not standing straight. So no one is talking about these issues. That's how I started this thing. But then you can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I said, let me focus into the things which really matter to an individual's welfare. A learner needs to leave home to go to school. A parent needs to leave home to go to work and back, or to go to the market and back. But for moving from point A to point B, they have to jump on a bus. Now, if that bus is not universally designed, you find the top people want to access that bus. You find somebody who's on a wheelchair won't access that bus. You find somebody who's blind, they won't access that bus. So who's going to make those noise? The law is very clear, like for road safety issues. If I have a concern, I write it down, I present it to a responsible agency, and they will give their view and how we are going to implement that. Similarly, disability issues, you go to the Zambia agency for persons with disabilities, you tell them, oh, I have this concern, I'm not seeing anything being done, but my honest opinion on this is ABCD. You submit. And that's how we have been coming on all along. We haven't been, we have been very user-friendly with the government, because if we were not, we wouldn't be doing this. Basically, that's how we started our organization, sir.
Interesting. I want to learn from you, what are some of the activities your organization is doing as related to the public transport sector? To be specific, bus stations, because there are issues of alcohol abuse there, there are issues of mental health there. What activities are you doing, and how do you intend, what is your suggestion on what leaders should do about that? Those aspiring to be leaders, especially that we are in the campaign period.
That's a very good question. Like this period of the time Zambia is going through, it's an election time. On our part as commuters, representatives, we are carrying out a campaign where we are creating more demand for HIV testing and the mental health services awareness. The idea behind this campaign is that people should come forward and get tested and also seek mental health services, because what we are saying is that, for instance, there's a lot of alcohol abuse going on. If you wake up tomorrow morning, go to your nearest bus station or market, there are certain places where you find it. Crowds already accumulated near those places. When you approach them and they dig deeper to find out what they are doing, find they are busy drinking illicit brew, kachasu or junta. Now this junta, we have seen that it's impacting on the users, especially the youths. We are all aware that excessive intake of alcohol may cause the brain damage. With the brain damage comes impaired thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So like health-wise, you'll find somebody who's incapacitated by alcohol. They'll be unable to make an informed decision with regards to if they are at a bar, for instance. There's some, if it's a man, find when you are drunk, you'll find you end up sleeping with the people you never intended to sleep with. And in that sleeping, you may find that you didn't even use the protection. But if you were sober, all that wouldn't have happened. Now, this is how alcohol gets connected to HIV. Then again, when your alcohol has damaged your mental thinking capacity, you'll be making these irrational decisions. You'll be sleeping around because you are not thinking properly and you are not seeking assistance to solve the mental health issue you are facing. So, alcohol can indirectly bring HIV on you, can also bring mental health challenges on you. So, us at the commuter, we are starting this campaign where we are encouraging the end users, the commuters, bus drivers, taxi drivers, wawazis, conductors, the traders, all those people are found in the bus station or the taxi rank and the market. We are saying, let's rethink our HIV position. And with the coming of COVID-19, things have been confused. Today we are talking more of COVID-19. We have stopped talking about HIV. And these restrictions and whatnot, staying at home and whatnot, there are things which are happening in homes, offices, unspeakable things happening, brought about by COVID. And some hinge on abuses, rape, defilements and whatnot, because people are forced to live in a confined space and they can't go out to reach for help and what. You know, like our colleagues, ladies, culturally, the way they are brought up with certain things, they don't easily talk about those things. So there are these silent things that are going on. So us, on our part, we said that we'll play our part to start a debate on increasing access to HIV testing and mental health. Because even in some families, you think by beating somebody, a mental health, a person who has a mental health challenge, by beating that person, you think they will come back to their senses and start acting the way you want them to act. It's a challenge. And it's not only, people don't only get cured by, if you have a mental health challenge, it's not all about Chinama. Some are not medicinal, they don't require medicinal solutions. Others just love, they miss love. But that's the subject which we can explore on another.
On another platform, of course.
But basically, us at the community, those are the two things we're doing. And this basically attests to what we are talking about. We have this flyer which talks about mental health. We are busy secreting this in our target areas. We have also a flyer talking about HIV testing.
Okay.
So
But,
even just before you cut me, even alcohol abuse we are talking about.
Now that is alcohol abuse in the stations. Now that brings me to the next question. But what should these politicians do to address alcohol abuse? Does the act mandate the sale of alcohol along bus stations based on the aspect of alcohol abuse?
Mr. Soko, you are a journalist and you know the bylaws of this country. Our country has a national alcohol policy, which clearly stipulates how alcohol is supposed to be sold, marketed, managed, and whatnot. But what we are saying is we have very good laws on the paper, but implementation is a challenge. Because when you go to a market, you find people accessing beer as early as 6 hours. They are accessing alcohol actually, not beer, alcohol, because beer is just one form of that intoxicant. There is wine, whiskeys, and what catches everything there. Then we see that young people, because there is a certain age which is allowed to buy alcohol, but you find the underage people can also be sent, go and buy me beer, alcohol, what they will go and buy. So I'm saying those rules, policies are not being enforced. And we don't know why. Then the owners of those markets, bus stations, why they allow that practice to happen is another thing. But the bylaws are very clear. In a market, you're not supposed to sell alcohol. But it's going on. We are talking about this, but the actual onus is on the council to put their foot down, especially on illicit alcohol. Kachas should not be found at a market. It should not be found at a bus station. So the laws are very clear, but implementation. The Ministry of Local Government, they need to work with the Ministry of Transport, especially regarding drivers who consume alcohol. Because the drivers are easy to find. Just go to a bar, you find a lot of vehicles parked there. Who issues the license? It's a council. Who's in charge of policing people driving under the influence? We know. So if they collaborate, this thing can be drastically reduced. But we are not saying that. But in this election period, we are saying the political parties should come out clear. What is the alcohol policy? When they gain power, how are they going to implement policies, action plans which break down the abuse of alcohol? How are they going to come in and assist the so-called junkies we have in our communities? Because we need some rehabilitation to start. A lot of families are complaining. Almost each and every family, there is somebody who's being affected by alcohol abuse. It can be your young brother, it can be your big brother, your uncle. This thing is countrywide, and almost everyone can attest to what illicit alcohol has done to families, to friends, even in the media industry. We have read about prominent DJs who were attacked, who were abusing beer, and they ended up going on the other side miserably. So, the manufacturers of alcohol should do morally justice, stand up to say, okay, like these junta things have really affected the communities. This is how we're going to intervene. We're going to help out communities directly, ABCD. Well, we're going to help the Ministry of Health this way. Well, we're going to help the Ministry of Local Government this way, or Ministry of Transport. That's what we expect. But otherwise, alcohol abuse is happening, and it is having a devastating effect, especially on the youth.
Interesting. In case you're just joining us, I'm hosting Mr. Liswaniso Manalushi, a commuter rights advocate, as well as the Commuter Magazine team leader. We are discussing the transport sector issues, elections, amidst the COVID-19. Now, going into another, just where you have been explaining, there's another aspect. How easy or difficult is it to enforce COVID-19 guidelines, especially in the public transport sector?
Of course, social distancing in a bus. How do you do it? Because in a bus, in a space like this, the conductor expects 3 people to sit here. Now, with this COVID-19 we are having, we are supposed to, I don't know, the government is supposed to come in and question the impact on the bus operators, taxi operators, if the social distancing is to happen in those vessels, those vehicles, boats and whatnot. We have seen in other Western countries have suspended the operations of certain services. Or the planes, there was a time almost all the planes were grounded internationally. Even tourists were no longer coming here because of the same impact. So, I think we need to come up with a homegrown solution, because the way buses operate here is not the way they operate in the Western world. And what we are seeing mostly is we are like copying what the civilized world is doing on how they are combating the spread of COVID and imitating it. But here, our transport, the way buses are managed is different from them. There are issues of economic challenges. Not everyone can afford a taxi, to be in a taxi, make up and whatnot. We are all forced to board those buses. Then there are issues, I can't stay home, because we live on hand to mouth. People are forced to jump on those buses. So, I think, because this disease, it doesn't choose. It's not selective whether you are poor or you rich, whether you can manage or you can't manage. The government should come up with it. Stakeholders need to sit down and come up with a holistic approach on how this will be managed. Because even the money, the conductor, is busy getting money. People are not moving, but money is moving. Money is being touched by everyone. How many people are sanitizing money? Do we have a mechanism to clean the notes, the coins? Because even here, people can easily change money. But have we cleaned that money? You go home, even when children are told not going to school, you still want to give a coin to your child and whatnot. But that coin, where is it coming from? In the house, the toilet handle, the door handle. All those things we touch, we are not sanitizing them. Similarly, even the bus, the chair, there are so many things we are touching. So, Mr. Soko, really, that question, everyone needs to contribute on how we are going to sanitize the transport sector. Leaving this issue to just the police and the road transport and safety agency, Ministry of Transport, certain things will be missed out. Because, for instance, a person on a wheelchair, a blind person, entering a bus requires a lot of touching of things. And you can't sanitize the whole bus. It's impossible. So we need to deliberately come up with a mechanism. If we are going to go back to my days, IUPZ, or we'll continue, that conference is the one which can come up with those things. But otherwise, the model we are using, COVID will continue spreading.
Interesting there, Mr. Mwanalushi. We also want to get your aspect. You mentioned the aspect of persons with disabilities. How accessible are our station? And what sort of intervention is required from our leaders, those who aspire to form the next government?
Those are challenges. The government faced. For instance, the Zambia Compulsory Standards Agency. I don't know if the Zambia Bureau of Standards is involved. Again, the local authorities, the councils, the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, RATSA, they need to come together. They play their part on the government side. If a bus station is built, has it got all the provisions for persons with disabilities? I don't know if the bus station in Livingston has been commissioned. But back then, we were being told, 2014, this bus station will be universally designed. It will have all the factors which persons with disabilities need to use for them to access this in place. We wait to see that. But we have seen other bus stations have been commissioned in Kalomo, Choma, I think even in Pemba somewhere, Mons. But on the paper, when you go to the Zambia Agency of Persons with Disabilities, go to community development, go to local government, issues of inclusion are factored in. Even the 7th National Development Plan talks about inclusion and leaving no one behind. But when you go on the surface, reality, you will find barriers. So we don't know if it's the constructors or the software and the hardware regarding disability issues is being it's not aligned properly. We are seeing goodwill from the government, the technocrats, but those who are building the physical things, somehow they mess up. Because even in roads, you find a road, we are talking about inclusion, leaving one behind. There are certain roads you find, there are no provision for pedestrians, there are no provision for wheelchair users. You go to a traffic light, visually impaired, they can't cross on their own. We have issues now with Klimazam Cab. All those people need to be included. Street kids, everyone who's found in the road needs to be. We are evolving. You can't leave just because they're in the informal sector. No, they are there. You need to include them.
But how can we bring sanity in the transport sector, especially on the aspect of cowboys? Because we see motorists or drivers complaining, and the commuters whom you represent are complaining over the harassment of bus drivers as well as the commuters themselves by these people who call themselves cowboys along the roads and various bus stations.
As I've said again before, the laws are adequate. Implementation is a challenge. The Markets and Bus Station Act of 2007, or somewhere there, it's very clear. And when you read it, there's no provision for a cowboy, there's no provision for a mamazi, a card. How they find themselves there, we don't know why the councils allow them, but the Bible, which stipulates how those facilities are supposed to be managed, is very clear. There is no provision for those. Now, if those people are mandated to implement the law, are finding challenges, I think it goes back to stakeholders. We are a Christian nation. Why do we want to go against the law? I don't know. But Mr.
But others say it is that requires political will. Is there enough political will? What sort of political commitment is required going forward?
Mr. Sok, I've said the law is very clear on how those facilities should be managed. That example who people give at how do you think an ATM machine for giving you your money? That's its job, to give you money when you punch in the required instructions. Similar, the law, what town clerk or mayor, they're supposed to implement that. The police, they are there to support the implementation of that law. And sometimes I think we unnecessarily give pressure to a caretaker, for example, because the president will give directives, even the issue of to my highs. The president is going to come back about phasing them out. The president has said, again, so there are people behind. That's political will. The president has said.
Are you suggesting that some people will be disregarding the directives from the president?
No, it's there in the media. Our president, for instance, issue at my small buses. The president gave a directive. The responsible agencies, they said, no, you can't do it just automatically. You need to give time. There are issues. Accidents have continued taking place. There are certain places you go means. Could be my bus. People have to jump on tracks. There is mixed transportation. People, animals, there was a directive given. If people are being ferried from point A to point B, this is the kind of vehicle which is supposed to be there, to be used. It's there in the media. What political do you want? We're not coming there.
So you are just shifting the blame to the local authorities or
yes.
the implementing agencies.
Well, there.
But they are afraid of losing their jobs.
Who told you that they are afraid of losing their jobs?
Are you sure you're not aware?
I'm not aware. But anyway, sometimes even you journalists, Mumarimba must awake self-censorship. So, this is why me, like, I follow like the current president. He has been very good at giving me the directive, or if he's been too far in the story. Even the previous presidents have been very categorical. This it's good, but people just don't. People just forget talking about that.
We needed to have buses fitted with seat belts, but the implementation of that program was pushed to 2021. But was that necessary, considering that lives were being lost?
Yes, it's a concern, and it's very important that numbers of lives being lost on the roads are minimized. But do we have a manufacturing company of buses or seats in Zambia? Most of these things come in imported, like if my buses, mostly, I don't know if it has changed. They were cargo vans. They were not meant for transportation of people. were being modified locally. Now, when that process has been done, or my seat belt, still more, those things are not properly fitted in that vessel. So if there is impact, people fly and what they.
Isn't it the reason why we have governments in place to facilitate for such modalities?
Well, Mr. So this is where we are coming from. So we have good policies. So if you could below standards or the agency which is responsible for allowing those vehicles to come in, I don't know if it is there. If they don't check for those things, already there, that's where the problem starts. So we should be able to say, if this vehicle is being imported, if it's coming in as a bus, let it come in as a bus already with the seats already. Let it not be coming in, it be imported in under some other service. No, it will be for farm produce, vegetable, they can gain and then modify in a food. No, we have seen even ambulances. You see the bus, the way it looks. It was an ambulance originally. Then they modify it. We have seen even school buses. A bus meant for very time, it's now being put on public. You put in Madumbo, what kind of it? So the law is there, but the agency is responsible. Not it.
Then what should be the duty of those people be given the mandate to run the country post August 12 general elections in terms of bringing sanity in that area?
Even today, it's like it's a relay. Even this democracy, we learned from Ovazon. But pass up Wakaunda and they allow me to take this opportunity to pass my condolences to the family of our first president. I am saying this because sometimes what have created UBZ. I don't know if you had carried it over from the colonial days, but he had set an example of how a bus company is supposed to operate. When it was liquidated and whatnot, those Malamulo should have been kept. The bath water can be thrown, but in Malamulo, then our private sector, if you want to make a bus company, these are the guidelines. We would not be having this discussion. But in every gym and Jack can start a bus company. There are some buses which have to come down, even here in the combo.
Interesting. In case you are just joining us, we are discussing transport sector issues and elections amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Your host, I'm Patrick Soko. I'm being joined by Mr. Liswaniso Manalushi, a commuter rights advocate, as well as the Commuter Magazine team leader. Just now, we'll take a short break, but we'll be back shortly. Stay tuned.
Zambia has embarked on an economic journey for individual financial emancipation, empowering its citizens through land acquisition and developing the nation through agriculture. This time, Zambians are coming together, taking it upon themselves with the help of government to develop this great nation by taking individual responsibility and ownership of this great nation. The economic revolution has started. There are thousands of Zambians with a can-do mindset who are resolute, unstoppable, full of confidence and conviction that Zambia's set time of favor for development is now. Don't be left out. This could be the time you have been waiting for. Camnet Television, in conjunction with the United Agrivision Consultancy Limited, will be hosting a national conference on becoming a millionaire through agriculture. Date 1st October and 2nd October 2021. Charges 750 kwacha per person per day, that includes lunch. A limited number of participants through Zoom have also been reserved. You can also be part of the conference from the comfort of your home by registering online via Zoom, joining the people who were born for greatness. Charges for participation via Zoom are only 300 kwacha per person. Time 07:30 hours to 17 hours. Registration and confirmation of attendance will take place on the 29th of September 2021. Time 14 hours to 17 hours. Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International, the home of Camnet Television in Apex Hill, Kabulonga Road, Lusaka.
Camnet TV offers a wide range of advertising spaces for motion adverts, preaching programs, social media advertising, studio facilities, productions, programs and documentaries. Grow your business with us at Camnet TV. For advertising space, visit our offices at plot number 396/100, Ibex Hill, Kabulonga Road. Call 0962 965 883 or 0979-753-010, or you can email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Continuing with our topic of discussion, transport sector issues and elections amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Mwanalushi, I want to get your perspective regarding what political parties should do, especially that we have seen time and again, each time there's an election, where there's high levels of contravening amongst motorists, and in terms of the fairing of political party supporters. Maybe we may even see a minimized scenario there because two major political parties are still being banned by the ECZ in terms of holding physical campaigns. But all the same, we do see that lawlessness on the road. What needs to be done, especially amongst the political parties?
Well, for starters, like I think even in the past we had proposed, we had suggested that the Electoral Commission of Zambia, the Road Transport and Safety Agency, and the Zambia Police, the departments responsible for safety, they go together, the political parties, and they educate them on road safety. These issues of Nkarama window, sitting on top of the bus, then educating them on the negative aspects of such behavior. And
what are some of the possible consequences now that you are talking about it?
For instance, you are sitting on top of the bus, the driver does an emergency. The chances of you flying off that roof, landing there, injuring yourself, becoming disabled, are very high, or even dying, very high. So we are saying, before we reach that level, let the technocrats, the secretary generals, they sit and agree. Then that information trickles down the hierarchy. Oh, you chairman, whatever, when you're hiring buses, don't allow Vonkarama window, just go from point A to point B peacefully. We aren't order. A Christian nation is order. We be confusion. You market yourselves properly. When you reach a road block, most of the radar police, most of the radar rats, they are mandated to do whatever they are doing. We also spanga you are above the law. But going forward, that is what we feel we should have like a code of conduct on how cadres are ferried from one point to the other, and how cadres are sanctioned if they are found wanting. There should be some form or whatever, an accord signed where if a party is found not to be wanting, but muna sign now why did you do this? And this thing should be explained in the simplest language. Because sometimes these issues, you find there are issues of uncompleted matters with the Ministry of Education. People don't understand certain things. They don't appreciate safety. You think when falling, the powers are you may die, and that's the end of you. Mafilm yet matamba ni mafilm just for entertainment purposes. When they Rambo, Terminator and what, they factor in certain safety issues. People should realize that. But at the end of the day, if politics job, you don't need to die.
Do we need politics in public places like markets and bus stations? Based on your experience?
Believe them, guys, no. In a multi-party dispensation, it's very difficult to have a political party claim a certain facility because we live in a multi-party dispensation. So, just like my church, how come my church is Mankara Moshi, Tankara, even the way you see in the Catholic, there's no friction. But in my party, the PF, the MMDY, Kappa, Mapancha, it's not supposed to be that. We are the same people, the same blood and whatnot. So, politics, in my opinion, such facilities, safe because those are public facilities. Everyone who trades from there, they pay taxes. And that tax, Sisa and Katienda Okuna is for everyone. It's for every Zambian.
In case you want to contribute to the program, you can dial the number that is on your screens. That's our MTN line is 0968675273, and our Airtel line is 0973167840. You can participate by dialing those numbers to be part of the topic of discussion, which is transport sector issues and elections amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And my guest on the program is Liswaniso Mwanalushi, the Commuter Magazine team leader, is also a commuter rights advocate. Now, what are some of the pertinent issues that we need to look at in terms of safeguarding the plight of the commuters?
We want a commuter rights chart.
What is a commuter rights chart?
It's a document stipulating the rights of a commuter. Because today, if you go to RATS, you go to the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, say, I'm a commuter, what are my rights? Yeah, it's a answer.
You can hold on to your thought, Mr. Mwanalushi. We take our caller there. Hello? Good evening, sir. You are through to Camnet TV.
Hello?
Hello, you are through to Camnet TV.
Hello? Good evening.
Good evening, we can get you.
Yes, how are you?
Fine, and how are you? May we have your name and where you are calling us from?
Yes, my name, I'm James Msongo.
Okay,
I'm
sir.
calling from Pika.
Pika. Okay, you can proceed with your contribution, sir.
Yes, although I've come late to listen to that program.
Oh, okay.
But I've heard about the time you were talking about the bus plantation and so on. I learned a bad here, and I would agree with the Mwanalushi sentiment. How difficult it is to negate the bus. Because when people are using buses, they can also think different that. Now, we have seen to say we are always the victim as bus owners, because always when there's this calamity, always the bar are the first thing to be called. And we've been affected since 2020, March 26 to date. And we're finding it difficult how to survive. Now, with the same issue, why is also not looking how to maybe assist the bar owners in inception. I remember very well that the March 26th, bars were closed for 7 months. Again, it was listed and we were given only 3 days in a week. That's Friday, Saturday, 18 hours to 22 hours. Now, how can you survive with such a business when you're considered going to school and some other things? Now, we have heard that before there was a fund release to assist the people most affected with the COVID. We are not seeing this bad, this funds. And we have been very much hampered everything. Especially this time when COVID is a great grave. It's very grave when people are dead, it's very right. So is there any other way they can look into this no problem concerning the bar owners and extras? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contribution, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mwanalushi, there is, he just made a comparison of to say, based on your explanation, to say it's difficult to observe, for instance, social distance in public transport. But the bars equally, it is difficult. But they are wondering why the government finds it easier to shut them down while the transport sector continues to run. And he also pointed out the issue of the COVID-19 relief. On that aspect, I think our news department would try to find out what are some of the details surrounding the COVID-19 relief fund. But Mr. Mwanalushi, you can just chip in based on whatever, just based on his comment.
Oh, okay, yeah. Speaking as a commuter and commuting, there's an aspect of hospitality involved. Zunguluka timazipeza ku maloji, hotels and what. We see the challenges the bar hotel owners are facing. Like in places like Livingstone. I'll talk about Livingstone because there is a project the Commuter magazine is conducting in collaboration with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, our international partner who are helping us in creating more demand for HIV testing and mental health sepsis awareness. So, like Livingstone, in your course, tourists are not coming in. Even the locals, their spending power has been affected because those who work in the hospitality industry, most of them have been told, there's nothing happening at the hotels. So, because of that, my honest opinion would be that the government comes up with a relief package on how bar and the hotel owners can be assisted. Just like the way the bus and taxi owners need to be assisted. COVID has changed the way things are managed. So, the bar owners and their association needs to engage with the Minister of Local Government. They need to engage with the Minister of Commerce. They say, in the short period, because I'm unable to pay my barmaid. I'm unable to pay for my water bill. I'm unable to pay for my electricity bill. And the other taxes wanted by ZRA, NAPSA, etc.
Before I interrupted you, you were actually explaining the Commuter Rights Charter. So you can give details on that. Correct.
We're saying we approached the RATSA and the CCPC. You are the custodians. You are the ones who are rightfully mandated to protect us. And the Road Traffic Act says if you have any idea, you have to present it before that. Or have risk a consent. We presented that consent to that. We are still waiting for feedback. But me as a very tall person, I have issues which I need that charter to come out clearly on. Because in Kakwera bus, there should be value for money. Painaenda onkala palifika na nkala musi. Muntu ai disabled. Kulipepo munyamura dehumanizing that person. We want those buses. Is it that I should do? Put in waivers. My bus operators will have open case kuleta mabasi yali universally designed where people can just walk in with row in with the wheelchair. That's what we are calling for. That charter should clearly stipulate. And that chapter, I think now ZRA should be incorporated.
Being a commuter, I want to tap in from your experience. If you are fat and you occupy a seat, some conductors suggest that you need to pay for two people. Is that right?
No, that's why we're saying this charter should say Tabasca so on the way or base time. I should after your wisdom reasonable accommodation. Madam was at the pyramid. She's not her fault that she's fat or what. That's how God created that person. Similarly, even that's how God created. Not why some Burkina taxi civilized people don't operate like that. Christians don't operate like that.
Mr. Manarush, I would like to get your concluding remarks.
Me, I would just like to encourage Camnet TV, the proprietors, the SOCOs, and the team which are bringing us together to share our opinions regarding how our nation needs to go forward, how our nation needs to develop, the challenges we are facing to be sorted out. I'm just appealing to you to continue providing this platform to everyone so that we all contribute to making Zambia a great nation, which it is supposed to be.
Thank you very much for finding time to be part of the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Well, our dear viewers, we've come to the end of the program. We are glad that you could find time to follow the proceedings of the program. For those who have called in, we thank you for your time and would like to assure you that we have interesting topics of discussion throughout the week. Stay tuned to Camnet TV until we come back with another interesting edition of The Verdict. This has been Patrick Soko. Stay tuned.